Coming at you from the south side of Chicago, straight out of my mother's basement at my childhood home, I'd like to welcome you all to the power to persist. My brother, Mr. Morial, welcome to the south side, baby. Well, you are in the basement. This is my childhood home. My mama's upstairs. You're on the south side of Chicago.
I feel like I'm in a mansion.
Welcome to the power to
south
persist.
South side power to persist headquarters. It's great to be in Chicago, and it's been a joy, man, driving down the south side.
Yeah.
We were with the Chicago Urban League, James W. Compton building.
Yes, sir. My first salary job, Chicago Urban League at 25 years old.
Isn't that fantastic?
With James Compton.
And James Compton, the legend.
Yes. And
a great leader of the Chicago Urban League.
Yeah.
You know, by the way, we will have a conference room in our new building named after James Compton.
That's incredible. The conference room in Harlem at our new building.
In our new office. So we have one named after James Compton, one named after John Mack.
Yeah.
Both because we had donors who wanted that to happen.
That's right. And legends of the movement.
Legends.
Speaking of which, so you said, and I'm gonna do this from the jump. Yeah. You are a native of New Orleans.
I'm a native of New Orleans.
As a matter of fact, you are the former mayor of New Orleans. So as you drive here, over to the south side and through the city, what are some of the similarities between New Orleans and Chicago?
I think the similarities between New Orleans and Chicago come in the people. And, Chicago, and I had an opportunity to visit Chicago as a boy. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's the camaraderie and the sense of community that you feel from the people of Chicago. Because Chicago distinctly feels, particularly the south side, like a southern place. All the migrants from Mississippi and Louisiana and Alabama who came here. Up south.
Yeah.
It feels that way. And the neighborhoods and the south side, they don't feel the same as New York or Philadelphia or Baltimore or Washington, D.C. They feel a little bit different. There's a little bit more spacing, a little bit more grass. So you kind of get that feel. One thing about New Orleans and Chicago, they're both flat places. No hills, no mountains.
Yeah.
And that kind of is a similarity, but it's in the people.
Yeah.
It's in the sense of camaraderie. It's a sense of family.
Yeah.
That exists. It's a sense of passion for the place and for the space.
My mom's family is from Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Oh, my Calcasieu Parish.
Yeah. I've not spent a lot of time there, but we've had a lot of engagement.
So, we all have family members who moved to Chicago.
Yeah.
And I began visiting Chicago. First time I came to Chicago was, I believe I was 5 or 6 years old. And that's when I first met John Rogers.
Wow.
Because our parents were friends. And we came up, I think, I don't remember, it was an Alpha convention or an NAACP convention or a National Bar Association. But our vacations in those days, our summers, were going to the conventions with my dad.
Yeah.
Those were the family trips. He was active in, as you know, Alpha Phi Alpha. He was active in the National Bar. He was a big leader in the NAACP in those days. So we'd go to all these conferences. And then when he became president of Alpha Phi Alpha, I was probably 11, 12, 13 years old. The headquarters was here in Chicago.
Yeah, it used to be here.
4432 King Drive. Yep. So I remember we would come here and we'd come down to the south side.
Yeah.
Like all the time, And so I have great memories because my dad and my mother loved Chicago.
Yeah.
They just had a affinity of, they didn't feel the same way. I mean, it was always about Chicago, and they had friends that had moved here and family members that had moved here in a very special place. So, I think Chicago was always, for those of us in the South, a bit of a mecca.
Yeah.
Johnson Products was here. Johnson Publishing Company was here. Alvin Boutte.
Yeah, Independence
was
Bank.
a very close classmate of my dad's from Xavier, of my dad and Norman C. Francis. So he was close to Alvin Boutte. So you'd hear about Chicago and the bank and John Johnson. And so when I was one of the trips up, and I told this story because it's an inspiration, I visited Johnson Publishing Company's new headquarters on Michigan Avenue. The first year it opened.
Wow.
And my dad went over there, a bunch of the Alpha board went over there to visit the building.
Yeah.
And I remember, man, I said, this is the coolest office building I've ever been in. The way they had it tricked out.
Oh yeah.
And so I said,
it's on the dining room, it's on patio, the whole nine.
And kind of, it wasn't boring in terms of the decor. They had phones that matched the furniture. Yeah. They had rugs that matched the furniture. I mean, it was like this is it. I'm a young, I was 10, 11, 12 years old, 13 years old at the time. But in many respects, Emil, the building that the National Urban League is building is inspired by that.
Wow.
Because it was a building developed and owned by a Black organization on a main street in Chicago.
Is it true that at one point Johnson Publishing Company headquarters was the only building in a downtown U.S. city owned by an African American?
Oh, yes. Yeah. There's no question about that. We owned very little. We probably owned more in downtown property in the Reconstruction era.
Wow.
In the South than we did in the 20th century.
Wow.
If you look at, in a place like New Orleans, I'm sure in a place like Durham and Atlanta, in the Reconstruction period where we did own property. I mean, Flint Goodrich Hospital was downtown. Dillard University was originally downtown.
Yeah.
Many of the African-American civic organizations, the Black newspapers owned buildings downtown.
Yes.
It was, quite a thing. So, in the building we're building, which is on 125th Street, it's inspired by that, that you could build a quality building, make a statement,
right?
In a very valuable, on a big street, in a big city.
So let's go in another direction.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
You are now 2 decades plus as the president and CEO of the National Urban League. Full disclosure, everyone, I'm a trustee of the National Urban League. I serve with the president and CEO here. Let's not assume that folks listening know anything about the Urban League and or may even be questioning the viability today of historic civil rights organizations. So behind you or to your right is your book, The Gumbo Coalition. Tell us, what's the connection between the Gumbo Coalition and the role of the National Urban League and its existence in this time?
I got to bring two streams together. So let me start with the stream of the National Urban League, which is one of our historic civil rights organizations, but in many respects for a long time was a silent giant.
Yeah.
And the reason why it was a silent giant, because most of our historic civil rights organizations were advocacy-only civil rights organizations. They promoted policy change. They fought against racism and segregation. They promoted equity. If you think of Rainbow Push, you think of SCLC. You think of the NAACP. You think of the litigation-focused organizations like LDF or the Lawyers Committee. The National Urban League was distinct in that it was a direct services provider. It was a social services organization that was founded by social workers to provide, if you will, services to Black people, Black migrants in the North that had come from the South and were trying to transition. So it was hunger programs. It was feeding programs. It was housing programs. It was employment programs in the earliest of days. And for a long time, that was the focus.
Yeah.
It was thought that the organization would engage in advocacy closely related to its focus. That changed with Whitney Young.
Okay.
Whitney Young, importantly, was a professional colleague of Martin Luther King. Because in the 50s, when King was in Atlanta at Ebenezer, after he came back from Montgomery, Whitney was the dean of the School of Social Work at Atlanta University. See, and so that was the connection.
Yeah.
So when Whitney, who had previously been an Urban League CEO, I believe, in Omaha and Minneapolis, came to Atlanta, and then when he went to the National Urban League, he wanted to align with King. So he aligned the National Urban League with the civil rights movement.
Interesting.
And he was a change agent in that Eugene Kinkle Jones and some of the others, they were advocates too, but in a different way. Whitney Young put the Urban League as a full partner as a civil rights advocacy organization.
Got it.
And also as an organization that did direct services.
Yep.
He put the big focus on economics and employment, which sustains until today. So he was succeeded by the late legendary Vernon Jordan, who in many respects was a friend of his, an Atlantan, a high school classmate of Maynard Jackson, who had grown up in the NAACP, in the Voter Education Project, and Vernon had also been president of the United Negro College Fund before he became president. So he continued. Yeah, he was 1 year at UNCF before he came to the National Urban League.
Interesting.
And the reason why, Whitney Young tragically died in a drowning accident. Otherwise, he probably would have been president another 10 to 15 years because he was only 50 years old.
Let me interrupt you. So it sounds like there was a shift, and I'm wondering if that shift in the organization's focus continues today. Would you agree with the perception that, when you look at the NAACP, Reverend Sharpton, National Action Network, SCLC, Rainbow Push, et cetera, would you say that the Urban League, in that shift from Whitney Young to now, probably has the best linkage to the corporate community?
Yes, absolutely.
As a civil rights organization? And why is that?
Because of Whitney Young.
Okay.
Now, it goes back prior to that.
Okay.
But Whitney Young, in many respects, and Vernon Jordan followed this, said after the Civil Rights Act of 1964 passed, he was in New York. Yeah. He said to the leaders of industry that had supported the National Urban League as a philanthropy, look, for civil rights to work, you guys have to open your doors. For civil rights to work, you have to employ people in our community. Yeah. And to the extent that they are not prepared, I'll prepare them. Got it. I'll train them. I'll get them ready. Got it. I'll make sure they're ready for corporate jobs, whether it was entry-level jobs or white-collar jobs. Right. That led to this sort of growth of the National Urban League's programmatics. And the rationale for being close to the corporate community was about opening doors to jobs. Got it. And preparing people for jobs. There's a reason for it. It's not about optics. It's not about feel good. It's not about politics. Yeah. It was about jobs. Got it. And if you look at Whitney's work and you look at Vernon's work, they laid this foundation with the Department of Labor, with big industrial companies and later technology companies, preparing Black people for jobs. He said, we will run the programs. We will put the curriculum together. We will prepare people, and we will connect people to the jobs in your businesses.
What's the connection to the Gumbo Coalition, and why is the National Urban League and other civil rights organizations relevant today?
So on the Gumbo Coalition is a brand I created when I ran for mayor. Got it. And it represented the coalition that I was building in New Orleans. Right? Got it. I built a multiracial coalition. Foundationally, its foundation was in the Black community, but I brought other communities in. We had a growing Vietnamese community, a growing Latino community, aspects of the white community, brought them together. And so the moniker Gumbo was a way to say, this is a New Orleans coalition. Got it. And Gumbo represents this food, this soup/stew that has African and Caribbean roots, that is made up of a multiplicity of ingredients. So today what it means and why I've sort of brought the brand to the Urban League to some extent is because, my vision for the future of America is an America that is a multi-racial, multicultural democracy. Got it. And I think that the counter to white nationalism, white supremacy, or the MAGA movement, which is narrow and exclusive, is to talk about a multiracial, multicultural democracy. Reverend Jackson talked about the rainbow. Others talk about the melting pot. Others talk about the mosaic. The reason why I talk about the gumbo is because gumbo, you can continue to add, and it gets better. So its ingredients are not fixed, right? You can make it in multiple ways. You can continue to add, food items to it. There's seafood gumbo, there's chicken gumbo, there's okra gumbo.
Everybody don't like gumbo, though.
Everybody don't like gumbo, right? I realize that.
How do we deal with the people who don't like gumbo?
Because now we know how to make vegan gumbo, right?
Yeah, we need vegan gumbo.
We know how to make vegan gumbo. We know how to make gumbo with no seafood. We know how to make gumbo with no meat. Yes. So you can make it like pure okra gumbo is a vegan dish.
I'm going there because, how do we get, you made reference to this other group of Americans who are the antithesis to this gumbo that you're talking about. How does that message of the importance of the gumbo?
Lamell, I think in many respects, this is a question of American survival. I don't think the nation, no nation that has sought a sort of nationalist framework, you think Nazi Germany can survive in the long run because it's based on a caste system and it's based on suppressing and oppressing people solely because of the color of their skin, their religion, their culture, their language. And you can't build a nation on a sustainable basis like that. Look, think of the Roman Empire, right? The Roman Empire it conquered peoples through military force.
Yeah.
But the Roman Empire also was a multicultural, multinational empire. And while they used repression, the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, other empires, we're trying to do something different in America. We're trying to build this multicultural and multiracial democracy that is based on a set of fundamental and shared values. I think this is what we're doing. And I think that in the long run, it has to win or the nation can't survive.
Let's go back home. To this day, so much of our understanding of the devastating impact of natural disasters comes straight from Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Katrina's reign of destruction on New Orleans and its surrounding communities was unprecedented. You're a son of New Orleans, as we talked about. In the 19 years since Katrina, what lessons have we as a country learned?
I'm afraid, Lamell, that it's been difficult to say we've learned sustainable messages, and I'll tell you why. 5 years ago, I may have thought differently, but now that you see the presidential administration destroying FEMA, saying to the nation, we don't need a federal emergency management agency to coordinate a response to natural disasters that know no boundaries. Natural disasters don't respect state boundaries, county boundaries, parish boundaries, city boundaries. Whether they're floods or fires or any type of natural disaster. And I think it's indicative that at least the people that are running the government to date didn't learn any lessons. The lesson...
I guess my question should have been, what lessons did we ignore?
The lessons I think that we ignore is that we need to build communities to prepare for natural disasters. That it is not simply about response, it's about preparation. And preparation is a very significant thing. So it goes to how you build buildings. It goes to how you put transportation systems together. It goes to how you curate evacuation plans. It goes to how you assist those who are vulnerable. It goes to how you think about confronting medical emergencies. So it's a largely, and I think many cities and some states have, if you will, strengthened their emergency management systems and their emergency response systems, but they cannot do it without the federal largesse. After Katrina took place and after the initial stumbles of the first 5 days, it was the federal government that brought in massive pumps. They brought them in on military transport planes. Massive pumps, which was stationed to drain the city. If they had not drained the city with the use of those pumps, that water may have stayed for months. Maybe in some cases permanently, right? And so it took the federal government, no state, no city, no parish, no county has the wherewithal to do that. So it was the federal government's largesse, the federal government's expertise was absolutely required.
But I gotta ask this because I asked it during the time. If Mayor Marc Morial was the mayor, what would have been different during Katrina?
First of all, I think we would have, and I hate to second guess, but we would have probably ordered a mandatory evacuation much earlier.
Got it.
Number two, the shelters at the Dome and the Convention Center, I would have made sure there was sufficient food and water and medical supplies there. Even if I had to go commandeer every grocery store in the city.
Yeah.
I would have made sure that there was survival to the extent it was difficult. There was no power.
Yeah.
It was difficult. It would have been that. And then I think we would have had a much more coordinated response to the rebuilding.
So basically what you're talking about in everything you stated is how do we build more resilient communities?
How do you build more resilient communities, and how do you anticipate? So we used to sit down every May 1st, and it was a region-wide emergency preparedness event that the Army Corps of Engineers, right, would participate in. Mm-hmm. And so all the emergency managers. Well, my first year, it was interesting. I went to the event. I used to go. Mm-hmm. The first year, the emergency guy says, "You're coming to this?" Mm-hmm. I said, "I'm coming because I need to hear. Mm-hmm. I need to listen." And I remember one of the questions, this is back in 95, I think. Mm-hmm. One of the Army Corps experts started talking about the intensity level of storms. And he came up with this interesting stat, which was for every 1 degree increase in the water temperature of the Gulf, it was equivalent to this increase in the intensity of the storm. Never forget, he said it, and everybody, I said, "Excuse me, hold on. I want you to repeat that again." I said, "Are you telling me?" This was a really important wake-up call for me. Not a wake-up call, but a real important point in my understanding of how global warming, climate change work. Mm-hmm. He said, when that Gulf gets hot, if it gets hotter, those storms are going to be way more intense. And it doesn't take, he says, a 2 or 3 degree upward adjustment in the water temperature can have, he says it's like blowing steroids, into the hurricane. Well, this is exactly what happened with Katrina. It went from a 1 to a 5 in a matter of hours as soon as it moved from the Atlantic and the Caribbean waters tend to be a little bit cooler. The Gulf waters, because it's an inland waterway, tend to be warmer.
Yeah. And
so that warm water hit that hurricane. So, I mean, you are talking about building much more resilient communities. It's got to be from preparation to response, and it's difficult today because we see a pattern of weather emergencies and an intensity of storms that we've not witnessed in the past.
Life has a funny way of testing us right when we think we have it all figured out. Those moments remind us that resilience is not about never failing. That's what the Power to Persist is all about. 8 simple habits to help you stay grounded, strong, and focused when life gets a little heavy. I'd be honored if you came along on this journey with me. Visit LamellMcMorris.com to get your copy of The Power to Persist. And listen to the Power to Persist podcast so we can continue to persist together. I want to keep talking about New Orleans, number one, because, you're the former mayor, you're a son of, and it's actually my favorite city in the world. New Orleans has faced so many challenges and, frankly, is inherently a resilient city. I'm thinking not just about Katrina, but in recent years, terror attacks. How and why does New Orleans continue to bounce back? What is it about New Orleans that makes it this city that continues to persist?
It's the culture.
Yeah.
It's the unique, New Orleans is the unique American place. Mm-hmm. It's an American city, but it's an African city.
Yeah.
It's an American city, but it's a Caribbean city.
It almost
It's an American city, but it's a European city. It's an American city, but it's a Latin American city.
Yeah.
It's mix of cultures.
Yeah.
Its mix of influences is unique in the United States. And that's because the city was, once a portage inhabited by indigenous Americans. It then became a city founded by French Canadians and French. For 100 years, it was a French city. The Spaniards came in. They took control of the place. They ran it as absentee landlords for decades. There were great fires, so they had to rebuild, and they built it with their architectural style. So you have French and Spanish. You had, after the Haitian Revolution, you had thousands of Haitians.
Yeah.
My father's side of the family is part of that community that came to New Orleans.
Yeah.
They were black, they were white, they were enslaved, they were free.
Yeah.
And they brought their culture, they brought their ways, they brought their language to New Orleans. And so New Orleans is the influences, and so that feeds into the food, that feeds into the music, that feeds into the dance, that feeds into the Mardi Gras culture. All of this is why New Orleans is the unique American place. And, Wynton Marsalis, good friend and brother and genius musician, says New Orleans is the only city in the world with a culture. Countries have cultures. Regions have cultures. New Orleans has a culture all its own.
I love it.
And I think that is why people fight for all of its, sometimes raggediness we got to deal with. People love it. I loved my time leading the city.
Yeah.
It is a special job to be the mayor of your own hometown.
Yeah.
Because in many respects, you're everybody's neighbor.
Yeah.
You're everybody's brother. You're everybody's
people watch you grow
son.
Up. Right.
You're everybody's grandson.
Yeah.
And everybody's really counting on you.
Yeah.
Everybody's really rooting for you for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's really looking for you to, work this out, solve this problem.
Yeah.
And I took the job super duper seriously. And we had a tremendous amount of success. But it was a great team. We worked hard. I had a president, Bill Clinton, who was supportive of cities. Yeah. I had two governors, one Republican and one Democrat, that we managed that was supportive. One, the Democratic governor, was supportive of the city because it was part of his political base, and he understood. The other governor, the Republican governor, had staffed people around him who were very pro-New Orleans, right? And that helped with his thinking about some of the things we did. Whether it was basketball, whether it was Super Bowls, whether it was hemispheric summits, whether it's building the arena, expanding the convention center, putting a downtown casino, bringing the streetcar back, doing all these housing developments, redoing the playgrounds. It was all a big gumbo coalition of activity. And, I really worked hard to make sure that even my political adversaries understood that we can't let our disagreements on some issues get in the way of working together on the things that we can agree on.
Yeah.
And so I tried to separate out sometimes, the politics of red, blue, black, white, from certain things. Like all of us want to put the streetcar back. All of us want to bring the NBA to town, right?
Yeah.
All of us want a safer city.
Yeah.
We may debate about how to get there.
But we want the same thing.
But we want the same thing.
Let me pivot to a totally different place now. Mm-hmm. When we look at civil rights leaders like C.T. Vivian and John Lewis, many sustained their work over decades and lived very long lives. What does that tell us about their leadership and the movements they built? And how can today's leaders create that same kind of staying power?
They were shaped by the circumstances of their lives. I saw this in my father. I saw this in my mother, and I saw this in the civil rights champions and leaders who were around them.
Yeah.
They were shaped by the circumstances of their lives.
Yeah.
They grew up and lived in segregation.
Yeah.
They lived in that world. They weren't just born into it. They lived in it. And when they look backwards, they were probably the third generation to live in that world, post-slavery, right? But pre-civil rights. Mm-hmm. And so the quest and the yearning for dignity, humanity, and freedom was not a calling, it was in their DNA. Mm-hmm. They were built that way. C.T. Vivian built that way. Martin Luther King built that way. Hosea Williams built that way. Dorothy Height built that way. Mm-hmm. They were built that way. It was in their heart and it was in their soul. And therefore, they were lifers. It wasn't a job. It wasn't, let me go do this for a while and then I'll go do something else. They were very much built that way. And so they saw the world of indignity.
Yeah.
They saw the world of oppression. They sat in the back of the bus. They drank from the separate water fountain.
Yeah.
They went downtown and saw 0 black elected officials, even if a third or 40% of the town was black. They went downtown, they saw no black judges. They went downtown, they saw no black people owning any property. They understood that. So when the Civil Rights Revolution took place, and they came out on the other side, they also understood that the work was not complete.
Yeah.
And that's what drove them. And to some respects, and I said this to both the National Bar Association and the Urban League, we're a little bit of the generation that got an opportunity for the opportunity.
Yeah.
I went to integrated schools. Why did I go to integrated schools? Because my father and mother had fought segregation.
Yeah.
So when it's time to go to school, they're like, you going over here because we fought to open these doors.
Yeah.
And when it was time to go to college, my father and mother had gone to HBC, my father and mother's both gone to Xavier, right? Everyone in the family had gone to Xavier or Howard or Southern.
Yeah.
Those that went to college. They're like, you guys are going over here. We didn't fight to open the doors for you to just do the same thing. They were very much, at least in my family, focused in that direction. Now, they didn't know that they were sending us into the wolves.
Yeah.
I mean, they really didn't know that you were going to go over there, and in some cases, you were not going to be accepted. You're going to be called names.
Yeah.
You're going to be bullied, and you're going to deal with another form of, resentment to some extent from some classmates and even from some administrators and teachers.
So there's a contrast, though. Data suggests that leaders like C.T. Vivian, John Lewis lived long lives as activists. When you contrast that to those who would be dubbed the more revolutionary and the more militant, their lives were cut off by violence. And it seems to me that historically, as I look back and even ask this question, folks try to get us to make a choice. It's Malcolm or Martin. It's Huey or, John Lewis.
Because I think that the popular mainstream narrative always seeks to pit us against each other.
Yeah.
I love Malcolm and I love Martin.
Yeah.
Now, Malcolm was a product of the Northern Black experience. He was in Omaha, he was in Detroit, he was in Boston, he was in New York City.
Yeah.
Martin was a product of the Southern Black experience. And each of their, if you will, advocacy was focused on the problems of those regions. In the North, you had poverty, you had discrimination, you had de facto segregation. In the South, you had discrimination, poverty, and segregation by law, or de jure segregation. So I was always, a fan of Martin and a fan of Malcolm, and believed that the dispute was part of how people try to separate leaders. They try to create fissure. In my time, you can look at the entire genesis of the creation of the Legacy 8 Coalition. That Reverend Al, myself, Melanie Campbell, NAACP with now Derek and Siobhan and Janae and Damon and Maya, all of us. One of the genesis of that was the election of Barack Obama, and we believing and understanding that there would be an effort to pit us against Obama. In other words, to pit us in an adversarial way with Obama, in an effort to undercut his credibility, but also to position us as critics of Barack Obama.
Some fell for that bait.
Some fell for that.
Yeah.
We did not fall for it. Yeah. And I'll tell you what was heavy on my head in those times, and Reverend Al and I talked a lot in those days about this. From some extent, we both said, there's no precedent for us. And I said,
no playbook.
There's no playbook. I said, let me tell you what the playbook is. I said, the playbook is the experiences of the first blacks that became mayors of major American cities. My father was one of them. Got elected It was an revolutionary moment. But the minute it happens, the press is looking around for mainstream press, for African Americans to criticize. They're trying to create an opposition force. So in the early days of Obama's administration, the phone rang constantly. Washington Post, New York Times, mainstream press. Are you satisfied with Obama? You think he's doing the right thing? How about his appointees? And I'm thinking the ink's not even dry.
Right.
And so we, in many respects, also looking in our rearview mirror, understanding COINTELPRO, understanding the effort to create division and distraction in our community amongst our leaders, I think decided, look, we're going to have some differences. We need to play it out in private. We don't need to be in open warfare with each other or open warfare with the president or open warfare with each other over how we ought to work with the president. And so it meant with Obama that in some cases where we may have been disappointed with his leadership or with his policies or with his pace, that we wanted to see him in the White House.
Yes, sir.
And assert those concerns to his face.
Yes, sir.
Versus trying to assert them on the front pages of the paper.
So
it required discipline.
Yes.
From us. So some people in our community criticized us. But I said, look, if you want to do something different, have at it.
That's right.
But what I knew that the Black community writ large was too savvy and smart to understand that they're going to give any air to anybody, particularly an African American, who is not going to give him at least a legitimate chance to be successful.
So that's a good segue since you're in Chi-Town today. Speaking of civil rights leaders and presidential races, a man who's, my hero and like a father to me, when you think about Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr.'s historic 84 and 88 presidential runs, what comes to mind and what was your role in those two elections?
What comes to mind is legitimate excitement that was generated by Reverend Jackson's candidacy, a sense of history being made. And, the backdrop for his candidacy was how the National Democratic Party treated Harold Washington.
Yeah.
In his race
Chicago's
for mayor.
first black mayor.
Chicago's first black mayor when national Democrats would not endorse him.
Yeah.
Even after he won the Democratic primary.
Yeah.
So Jesse felt, rightfully so, that the Democratic establishment needed to be challenged.
Yeah.
I had the incredible privilege of my life to be active in that campaign.
Yeah.
My brother and I probably played a role in convincing my father. He didn't really need a lot of convincing to endorse Jesse Jackson.
Yeah.
And then I became a Jesse Jackson delegate.
Wow.
I ran for the first time, ran in an election and won an election to become a Jesse delegate in both 84 and 88.
Yeah.
So I went to the convention in San Francisco, went to the convention in Atlanta. But then I also had a chance to travel the state because Jesse, in the fall before the summer before he announced, he had gone on a Southern voter crusade. So he was traveling around Louisiana, traveling around various cities in the South to register people to vote, doing these huge voter registration rallies. So I got a chance to travel with him.
I know what that's
a couple
like.
of days, and you know what that's like. It was quite an experience, right? And but what Reverend Jackson's candidacy did, it showed me that through elected office, you could be a change agent.
Yeah.
Some people in those days believed that there was some wall of separation between being a change agent and being an elected official.
Yeah.
And I believed, and to a great extent because of my father and the way that first generation, and then through Jesse's candidacy, I believe you could be a change agent and be an elected official. And that was an inspiration for me to run for office, right?
Yeah.
And want to serve and bring some sense of civil rights policy into government.
as we bring this conversation and your first time visit to the Power to Persist podcast, but not your last, as we bring this conversation to a close, when I think about civil and human rights leaders, I can't help but think about your mom and your dad. Dutch Morial, the first Black mayor of New Orleans, Sybil Haydel, and the work that she did. What did they teach you and your siblings about resilience and persistence?
They were people who detested big-headedness. They were people who believed that you put the best interests of the community first. They were people who believed that you paid your dues in the community.
Yeah.
I can't even count the number of times I eavesdropped on my father and his cohorts when people would want to run for office and they'd say, "Is he paying any dues?" And was he really involved in any civil rights? This is really what they were asking, because if he wasn't, we can't help him, because if he was sitting on the side while we were in a fight, he's not ready. And they taught us, look, my life revolved around, going to school.
Yeah.
Going to church.
Yeah.
And playing sports.
Yeah.
When I was young.
Yeah.
And my parents and the family we grew up, they were very, and having chores, man.
Yeah.
You had responsibilities.
Yeah.
And you don't do your responsibilities, you shut down.
Yeah.
You totally shut down.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing as probation.
Yeah.
I mean, they were in a strict, tight house.
Yeah.
But it was also a house and a family that believed in service. I mean, my mother was involved in so many things. I mean, she'd have meetings going on in her kitchen, and then she's cooking dinner, and then she was a school teacher, and she's lesson planning. She got 10 things going on all at the same time, right? Yeah. Same thing with my father.
Yeah.
He's running here, he's running there. They're active in so many things, and that, I think, was contagious because the people they associated with were just like them.
Yeah.
Right? They were very active in the community. They were very involved in the community. My father was involved in the NAACP. My mother was involved in the Urban League.
Yeah.
My mother was a teachers union activist. My father was a civil rights lawyer. He later, of course, ran for public office. But that's what they were focused on. They were very much in the struggle, very much in that. And I think two things happen with young people. Either it's contagious or it could turn you off and you want to go in a completely different space, in a very different direction. For me and probably my brother, it was contagious. We wanted to be, we wanted to be.
You wanted to be in the deal. You wanted to be in the movie.
We wanted to be in the deal.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
And that's just, and my father and my mother never had to push us.
Yeah.
They never had to say, come, what, going down to the NAACP meeting?
Yeah. You wanted to go with them.
And we also knew, what I also knew when I was little, going to these events with my father was what I call a zero supervision environment. I mean, literally go with him. He'd say, don't go too far. We're leaving in about an hour. So if you go here, go there, run around.
Because he was doing this thing. He was busy.
He was doing this thing. He was busy. So he wasn't like, sit there in a chair, don't go anywhere, right? He's like, yeah. So, I mean, that environment also gave us exposure and independence.
Yeah.
At a younger age.
So that's interesting. That makes me think about your children and how they've grown up watching you serve publicly, lead. What are the lessons of resilience and persistence that you try to impart?
You have to expose your children.
Yeah.
You have to bring them to places. You have to not let them live only in the world of children. They have to also live in the world of grown folks. So taking them to conventions, taking them to conference, my son traveling with me, my daughter traveled more with my wife on stories and places she goes, exposing them, right, has been very, very important. And making sure talking to them about things and making sure that they could hear things in the home. Sometimes we separate our children out.
Yeah.
Right. And I believe that you know, one of the things that I gave great credit to my parents is exposure.
Yeah.
You know, I got a chance to be exposed. I got a chance to see people. Like I remember one of the I remember watching Jesse Jackson speak when I was 16 years old.
Wow.
And it's a crazy thing. There was some convention in New Orleans, and me and my friends, hey man, they got a teenage dance down there.
Yeah.
Like, oh really? Yeah, let's go down there.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Fairmont Hotel. So we gonna crash this party. So we walk in the lobby, there's a poster.
Yeah.
Jesse Jackson speaking in the Grand Ballroom. So my friends are like, let's go. They're like, who's Jesse Jackson? I'm like, y'all know who Jesse Jackson is? 16 at the time. I said, let's go here. I said, how are we gonna get in? I said, well, let's just go. I said, oh. We just kind of like rolled in, right?
Yeah.
Sat there and sat in the front on the floor and watched Jesse Jackson speak.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, man. And that's Jesse.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a young Jesse.
Yeah.
And he had the place fired up.
Oh yeah.
He had people on their feet.
Oh yeah.
He had people really, really inspired. And so that's part of, you know, my upbringing. And we went to these. We used to go to Alpha Convention every year. So I met Muhammad Ali. I saw him speak. Ron Dellum saw him speak. Barbara Jordan saw him speak. Charles Reagan saw him speak. Walter Fortress saw him speak. Ralph Metcalf. You know, because they were all they were alphas or associated with the fraternity.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so that exposure, right? So I say, to the extent that you can, expose your children.
Yeah.
To actions and activities. And I think, you know, with our kids, you know, they were both involved in protests during Black Lives Matter.
Right.
I'll never forget, my daughter at the time was 15 or 16. She said, Dad, I need you to take me to a protest, me and my friends.
Wow.
I said, okay, baby. She said, I want to go to a protest with you.
Wow.
I want to go to a protest. I said, you want me to come? So, well, Dad, I don't really want you to come, but I want you to bring me.
Yeah.
Right? So I literally went.
Yeah.
And she had her friends. They went over there, and I went over here. So I'm like, I'm not going to crowd them. They want some independence. Keep their eye. But she wanted to go, and then she wanted to go to another one. And my son and his friends organized their own. And then they came to me and said, Dad, I think we need some T-shirts. Y'all need some T-shirts? I said, I'll get y'all some T-shirts. Yeah, you gotta have T-shirts at a protest.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, okay. You get some I'll get y'all some T-shirts. Just show me what you want on them. I'll get you some T-shirts. And then I said to him, I said to my son, he's 19. I'm not 19. It's about 17 at the time. I said, you going to protest? He said, you want me to come? He said, I said, I want you to come.
Yes.
Okay. No problem. I'm not coming, right? Yeah. So one of the things was also respecting their independence.
Yeah.
But I was kind of excited that they, on their own motion, were doing this. And I said, you know, Michelle and I said, yeah, I guess we've done something right.
Yeah.
You know, that they were like, yeah, we want to go be a part of this. For them, and that year was Mason's first year voting.
Yeah.
That was their inspiration.
Yeah.
That was their civic and civil rights coming out.
Yeah. Last one, because I know your team is like, he's got to get out of here. What would Marc Morial today tell 18-year-old Marc Morial?
Probably be a little patient. Be a little bit more patient, but then I think about it, well, if I was too patient, maybe I wouldn't have done what I've done.
Yeah.
I think I understood relationships, but I didn't understand relationships. I think what I understood is I like people, but I didn't always know what that meant.
Right.
When, how that, you know, but I like people, right?
Yeah.
So I like meeting people.
Yeah.
It's funny, I was on the University of Pennsylvania campus, and one of my friends was walking around. He said, man, how you know everybody? I said, because where I come from, everybody speaks to everybody.
Right.
I said, you know, we speak to the guard at the front of the dorm. Right. We speak to the lady who's at the desk.
That's right.
You know, that's just in my society, in my community. When we grew up, that's how you roll.
Mm-hmm.
I said, y'all different. Y'all walk past people. I know the guy selling fruit on the corner, the guy selling newspapers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, I said, because that's just the way when you're coming from a place like New Orleans, and maybe you come from the South, that's how you raise. And my parents were like, you better speak. You better say good morning. And if you didn't, you might get whacked.
My brother.
Thank you, Lamell.
You cannot help spending 2 seconds with you and not being inspired.
Thank you, brother.
I cherish our friendship, our partnership.
And hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
On the book, which I'm looking forward to digging into and learning a little bit about your story. It's a great, great thing to be able to write a book and tell a little bit of your story. It may be the first of many.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for being a guest on the Power to Persist.
Thank you.
All right. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening so you stay in the know about future episodes. See you next time, my friends.